show you a neat thing you can do with Adobe Animate and working with Adobe Captivate. Here we have a simple animation done with Adobe Animate. I press the Enter key, and you can see how things are. This is all timeline animation. You can see how these just kind of animate in, and then there's a stop action here at the very end of the movie, so it doesn't carry on. So we can easily publish this to an HTML5 package. So if I go to the File menu option, I'll come to my Publish settings, and I'm going to turn this off for now. I'm going to leave it on with the JavaScript, and this is the output file, and I'll just leave everything at the default settings, and I can hit Publish. And we're done. So to see what that looks like, I'll just hold the Command key down and press Return or Control Enter on the PC, and we'll actually see it inside of the browser. So there it is with the animation inside the browser. Now the problem with this is the canvas tag does not by default scale. So if I make the browser smaller, you can see that I'm cutting things off. So I'm going to come back into my code here, into my project, and I go to the Actions layer, and I'm going to open up the Actions panel. I usually just press F9, or you can right click and on the keyframe, come down to Actions, and I'm going to paste in this code. This is code that I have standing by, so I can reuse this over and over again. So let's go through this code a little bit at a time. So the very first thing that we have here is we have a variable called the canvas. This is a JavaScript bit of code where it goes into the document, the web page document, get elements by tag name. The tag we're looking for is canvas, and we're looking for the very first version of the canvas. This is optional, you don't have to have it in there. Now what I want to do is I want to get the original width. I'm not worried about the height in this because I'm bringing this into Captivate, so we'll just focus on the width. So take whatever the canvas is, which is we've just found here, find out what the width is, and then we're going to save it in here. Now this is a JavaScript thing as well for browsers. So window on resize. So if you resize the browser window, you're going to call this resize function. And at the very start of the project, I do call the resize function. That's why it's in the root. It's not inside of a function here. I call the on resize function. Okay. So this function that we have written down here gets called once, at least once. And then if the browser gets resized, and as you resize the browser, this code is going to be called over and over again. And here's what we're going to do with the code. So I'll scroll down here a little bit. We have on resize. Okay. We have two variables, the width and the height, and this is getting the inner width and the inner height of the browser. So as you change the browser dimensions, we change the width and the height. We find out what that is. Then we're going to set the canvas width and the canvas height based on the width and the height of what we have in here. Then we come up with this variable scale, and what I'm going to do is I can take the width of my my canvas and divide it by the original width of my movie clip, which we did right up here. And this particular movie clip was 700 pixels wide. So that's taking the width, the current width of whatever the browser is, and then we have it divided by 700. Now, interestingly, if I make it smaller, then this number goes below 0. And of course, if it gets larger than 700 pixels, then this number would be above 1. Sorry, it'd be below 1 if it's smaller than 700 pixels and above 1. And then we multiply it by the number 1, because the scaling is done from a value from 0 to 1. And if you exceed 1, then you can start to get, magnify it. If you go below 1, then you start to shrink down the movie. Now in here, we have export root scale X and export root scale Y. And export root is the entire movie clip. So it's not like I have to put all the contents of my animation file inside of a movie clip and then scale that movie clip down. I'm basically scaling down the stage. At this point, we're scaling the stage down. So I'm going to run this now. Command Enter. And you can see that if I shrink this down, now it's scaled and it's much smaller. Now because I didn't take care of the height, you can see I can also go well beyond the width of the browser, or the height of the browser. But again, I'm not worried about that. We could put another if statement in there to determine the height, and we could scale it based on the height as well. So, but for now, we won't worry about that. So if I'm going to be working on the desktop, I can have a view like this. If I'm going to work on the tablet, it can be like this. And if I'm going to be on a mobile phone, we can have it looking like this. So how do we bring this into Captivate? So what I want to do, I'm going to come back into my code, go to the File menu option, publish settings, and I'm going to go to the OAM package, and I'm going to turn that option on. And you can see we're creating here an OAM file, and this is an Adobe format that they use for animation. And it used to be Edge Animate where it would make OAM files, and now this is something that Adobe has or Animate can now do. The Adobe Animate CC can now generate OAM files. So I've published it, I've created an Animate file. I can switch over here to my Captivate, and I'm going to make a responsive project. Double click on that. And it's coming. Here we go. I have a very old computer that's running a little slow. I'm just going to delete this. And I'm going to come up here into Objects, and I insert the Web Object, and it puts a default web object here in the middle. I'll just move it off to the side a little bit. I'll open the Properties, and under the Positioning, I am going to set the height to pixels, and the width, I'm also going to hard code it into pixels. Because what will happen if you keep it at percentages, it's going to scale, or sorry, it's going to cut things off. So what I want to do then is the height for this, I believe it was 600, and then the come over here to the actually I think it's a little too high. Go with 500 in pixels. There we go, that's better. And this is going to be 700 pixels. So there it's set now. And right now we've got this web page that's popping up in here. So I'll go to the Properties panel, and I can see over here it's pointing to this particular website. So I'm going to click on the Browse button, and there's my OAM file that I created. I'll just point to that. I'll click Open. And it pops up in here. I'm not getting a preview of this right now, and I think it's because, again, I'm working with a very old laptop. I'm going to turn the scrolling off, and I'll leave the border turned on for now. So I have this set up now at the desktop. Come to the tablet. It still fits, but I'm going to actually kind of shrink this down a little bit. And I'm just going to move in on the left-hand side so I can put some content here. And then, of course, for the phone, I'm going to make it a little smaller here, and I'll bring this up so we don't have any scrolling. And what will happen now is that movie is going to take up this part of the space. It won't have anything down here, so I can make this a little bit smaller. But now I can save this file, and then I can preview it. Like I said, I'm having a little problem with my Captivate right now. Probably need to do a reinstall. But I have done this several times, and it has worked. So basically, it's just putting in a web object, positioning it, and then pointing to having this point to your OAM file, and you're ready to go.